Hey folks, you've heard the Tamron 70-180 is coming out this month. They sent me a copy straight from Japan to show you what it can do. We've been shooting with it for a little while, and in this video I'm going to run you through 5 reasons I think this is a no-brainer if you're a Sony E-mount shooter. Stick around folks, Tamron sent me this lens early and sponsored this video so I can show you what the lens is capable of. Yasmin and I shot in a bunch of different locations around Brooklyn with different outfits, and I'll be sharing dozens of different images with you. So before we go specifically into those 5 points, when I first saw this, I was really interested in it at WPPI because it seems to go after what was the real benefit of mirrorless that seems to have been going wanting. A lot of people are buying into mirrorless because they want a smaller, lighter, more compact setup. The bodies are marginally smaller and lighter than DSLRs, but then the lenses are just as big and even more expensive. So this one being so much smaller and lighter and cheaper, it really seems to offer a lot if the image quality is up to snuff. So I am going to give you a bunch of download files. You can check that out for yourself. For now, let's just enjoy this sunshine and shoot away. Turn in towards the wall, yeah. Yeah, well let's do it just as it is. The path across the face is cool. So after shooting in that direct sunlight, I wanted to change things up. We started off by doing a focus tracking test, having her walk straight at camera and seeing how it could do, tracking her face as she moved her head around and whatnot. As you can see, it did really well. It dropped off on one frame when she looked away, but it got it back the next frame and stayed with her right up until almost close focus. Next up, we changed things around and had her backlit in the shade to be able to get more from that lens without the hard light and shadow across her face. Okay, so reason 1 that this is a no-brainer for Sony shooters, and I've probably given it away already, it's the size. It's so much smaller. Shooting with it throughout a long day of shooting, it's just so much better balance. You don't need a tripod foot with it, which kind of leads to part 2, which is the weight. Being that half the weight of a 70-200 is basically as light or in the ballpark as a 24-70 for a 70-180. Being a constant f2.8, it's kind of remarkable. There's nothing else really on the market like this that has a constant aperture and is so small and light. So that's 2 of our 5. Let's shoot some more. So these concrete walls are so interesting, and you get a really different perspective on them depending on which side of the building you go, because here this is in direct sunlight and the back is, but this one isn't. On that side it was 2 other sides of it. So here we get kind of a nice different leading line through the shot. Next up, stepping back into that hard light and then backlighting her, we were able to get some nice edge light on her as she posed with her flower. I was really glad to be able to finally connect with Yasmin again. It's been almost a year since we had her on the channel. Make sure you check her out. Her links are in the description. So I'm going to put size and weight in as one, because I think there's actually more than 5 points. Two then has to be price. I don't care who you are, money's money, and at $1,200, less than half the price of the main competition, that's a steal. The G2 lenses from Tamron have been killing it lately. Of course, it all comes down to how it performs in the field and the image quality. Let's look at that next. Nearby we found this little alleyway that was actually quite dark but had those cool strips of light. So by putting her right up close against it, we're able to get a decent exposure time, not have to boost our ISO too much, and it was a nice little low light autofocus test as well. Great thing about the streets being so empty at the moment, we could choose any background we wanted and just shoot away with no passers-by. So far I have to say, I feel like the tracking's doing really well. Obviously that's a combination of the A7R4 and the lens, but you know, that's what you're going to be using it on, right? So I also have used it on the A9, working beautifully. Let's do another series here to see how it keeps with her wide open as she walks towards camera. Size and weight, price, and autofocus. The focus is doing beautifully. It really, I don't have them side by side, but it seems to be doing as well as I would expect from a native lens. Getting the eye, sticking with it all the time, jumping to the face when needs be. It just works great, even moving towards and away from the camera. Another one we have to check out then is how is the image quality wide open and stop down a little. Now I really like these results, but to get her nicely backlit, I wanted the camera down low. So to save me having to lay on the ground throughout the whole shoot, being able to hold this out in front of me with the tilt screen is really convenient. And here, the compact size and lightweight makes this so much more practical than trying to do this with a giant 70-200. Number 4 has to be image quality. There's no point buying a lens just because it's cheaper, lighter, if the quality isn't good, if the images don't look good. But the bokeh is nice and soft, it's incredibly sharp. The G2 lenses are just killing it. Overall, I got to give this 90-95% of the image quality of the competitors for less than half the price. It's a no-brainer. Next up, we headed out to the water's edge, that's Manhattan in the background, to get a few different variations in the last outfit of the day. And I have to give it to this lens, f2.8, even stopped down to 4 and 5.6, getting a beautiful soft background and loads of detail. Now, by chance, whilst we were there, the Air Force's Thunderbirds and the Navy Blue Angels did a flyover, and we were able to capture it. The 70-180 worked out nicely. At the bridge, 180, I was getting a nice frame. And as they flew overhead, I zoomed out and was able to do it at 70mm and still get all of the planes in the shot. So, price, weight, handling, image quality, the overall stabilization and balance of it. And finally, number 5 has to be price again. Less than half the price of the competition. It's fun to use, it's lighter, it's exactly the kind of lens that I would want to travel with, and I already have my pre-order in. I'll have links below where you can check it out at B&H and Amazon. I think genuinely it's a great lens. I've been a big fan of Tamron G2 lenses for the last couple of years. I have the 70-200 for Nikon F-mount. If they had something smaller and lighter like this for DSLR, I would go for it there as well. Thank you so much for coming across today.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys soon.